once we became incorporated. The person I served under was Reverend John Hunter, retired Presbyterian minister of Flagler Presbyterian Church. Honoring the past means, yes, St. Augustine is a historical city, and yes, we should pay allegiance to our history, but at the same time, see this little guy standing there with his mom? We have a duty to make St. Augustine the best place that it could possibly be for people like him. And you may tell me, but I don't have children. You don't have children, but you know somebody who does have a child. And because of that, you have a duty, all of us, individually and collectively, have a duty to see that all children, regardless of where we fall under the bell-shaped curve, have a duty to see that they have the best possible means of life as far as a quality means of life. Sometimes I have been criticized because I have been blessed to have a Juris Doctorate. I am not ashamed of that at all. I am very happy that I have been fortunate enough to have been blessed with the ability, to have been blessed with the education that has been allowed me. And because I have a Juris Doctorate, that does not mean that I should not be considered a viable candidate for this race because you have 3 or 4 lawyers on your board of city commissioners. As a matter of fact, it's important to me that your government is inclusive. What do I mean by inclusive? Look around you. Your government must reflect every other person who is out here today. If your government is not being reflective of the population in which it represents, I question that, and I'm hoping you question that as well. So when you see on here that I say government must be inclusive, I think you have a general idea where I'm coming from. I believe that government should strive for balance. I've said that before. I said that over at the Floridian, and I said at all other functions. Balance with some type of moderation in our decision making. We just cannot turn a deaf ear to those people who have come out in numbers to address their concerns and issues to us. Yes, I do think it's important for us to be proactive rather than reactionary, but if a situation arises in such a way that the community or the residents are reactive, board commissioners on different boards, we have a duty to listen to what you are saying. Why do I say that? Because I am a visionary planner. And a good visionary planner listens to the concerns of people, listens to the issues, and makes some significant changes that is in the best interest not only of the residents, but the residents and the city and anybody else it impacts.
Yeah, you got 45 seconds.
Now, I want to tell you about PUDs right quickly. A PUD is what Flagler College tried to use in reference to getting what it wanted to do with that building on the corner of Cordova and Cuna. What do I propose? I propose us looking at how PUDs are used in all of our historical preservations area, HP1, HP2, HP3, so forth and so on. And perhaps if we need to review and revise, then that should be done. Did you notice all the water you had to come through today? That's one of my pet peeves. Why do I say that? It's because infrastructure in St. Augustine definitely needs to be addressed. There are some things that can possibly be done technologically, and we need to explore those areas in order to avoid the flooding and in order to address the drainage.
Sorry.
I thank you all so very, very much.
I know that 10 minutes comes up. I'm sorry I didn't think about bringing a little alarm clock. I wouldn't have to keep staring at my watch. Are there any questions? Say your name first, please.
Rob Lucas, I would like to ask you the same question I asked your learned opponent, and she didn't answer, but I would like to ask you that same question.
Mr. Lucas, you correct me if I'm mistaken. I think the question that you posed to Mrs. Horvath had to do with CRAs in Lincolnville. CRAs in Lincolnville. It's my understanding, and if someone is more knowledgeable than me, I stand to be corrected. But it's my understanding, if we identify Lincolnville as a blighted area and we do a CRA for Lincolnville collectively, it's very possible that some people may lose their properties because of the distinction being a blighted area. Now, when the CRAs were initially mentioned to me, I was under the belief that the CRAs was going to be used to address the pool and the Galimore Center only. But consequently, since you have had a meeting with Commissioner Nancy Sykes-Klein and Mark Knight, it's my understanding that the CRA, they wanted, it is recommended to be applied totally in totality for the Lincolnville area.
Well, the CRA, as far as the Galimore Center, could only be used in phase 2 and 3. It cannot be used in phase 1 because that's already in the planning stage. Secondly, we attended a meeting, in fact we've been to a couple of different sessions, where the blighted community is the major thrust that they intend to use. And I'm asking you again, if that is the case, will you vote for it or against it?
If the major thrust is to consider Lincolnville a blighted area, I am not going to support that. Lincolnville is not a blighted area. We have too many people spending their hard-earned money here.
Thank you.
And I would take exception to someone calling Lincolnville a blighted area in more ways than one. That house that I told you that my sister lives in at 250 Riberia, I want you to pass there today and tell me if it looks like a blighted resident down there, please.
Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion? If it starts to rain, we do have one more candidate. Thank you. Are there any more questions? Yes.
This will be a two-pointed question.
What's your name?
Your name, please.
Oh, Tony Saraf, and I live here in Lincolnville. If anything comes up that the commissioners can vote on to stop Flagler College's unabated growth in our city to the point where right now 32% of the buildings in downtown Lincolnville pay no taxes, meaning our taxes as residents are going up, will you vote against it?
I'm not so sure of the percentages in reference to how much property Flagler College occupies in Lincolnville, but as I said before, Flagler used a PUD, and PUDs were supposed to be used differently. PUDs were supposed to be addressed for persons like 20 plus acres of land and so forth and so on for sufficient planning. That's not what we want to do. And if, I want to say this, if Flagler keeps eroding into and encroaching on our neighbors, you know what's going to happen to your taxes? What's going to happen? Do you want that to happen?
No.
I don't either.
And then finally, I am 100% with you that my neighborhood that I moved into a number of years ago is not a blighted neighborhood. But under those conditions of the blight laws that we are now beginning to look at, and the commissioner is beginning to look at, will you back stronger blight laws that we can get rid of these boarded up houses?
I too, Tony, went on and have reviewed the blight law, especially since some emails that were sent to me in reference to blight laws. There are blight laws on the books, but they may need to be strengthened as far as the wording. And not only do they need to be strengthened as far as the wording, they need to be enforced. And if we don't have that on board, we need to get it on board. I don't like seeing the boarded up areas either because.
And the dead trees.
Beg your pardon?
And the dead trees that go with them.
Okay, all right. No, I'm supporting blight laws in reference to keeping our neighborhood as the highest possible quality standard of life as possible.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Bruce Maguire, it's your turn. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me okay with this? My name is Bruce Maguire, and as a quick intro, I was born in Jacksonville, raised on Volano Beach and in Grinco Springs. Been spending my entire life in this St. Johns County area. Family was in the timber business. I went to the Air Force, and in the Air Force I was a fighter pilot, came back to St. Johns County where I grew up. While in the Air Force, not only did I teach flying and fly itself, but I also was an educator. I taught at the Air Force Academy. I taught at the city colleges of Chicago and at Embry-Riddle. I've got a lot of background in a very diverse area of leadership throughout the whole world, as a matter of fact. I came back here because this is where I grew up and this is my lifeblood. So I love it the way it is. I want to keep it. I grew up on Delano Beach, primarily. I remember all the old stores downtown St. Augustine when I was driving down there as a kid and enjoying the community for what it was. Back when St. George was a street you could drive down through the middle of. Big difference between now and then. There are several issues that I have in my campaign that I'm pushing hard. In the last 4.5 weeks, I have walked over 60 miles of streets inside the city. I have visited personally over 1,500 homes and talked to people throughout trying to find out what the real problems were in the city. The number one problem that everybody, regardless of what area of the city you live in, has been brown water. Every section of town has brown water problems. Doesn't matter if it's Lincolnville, Water Street, Northtown, the Lighthouse area, they all have brown water. There are little pockets here and there where the water's clean, but most of them have problems. The second biggest area is the flooding issue. Go over on Ballard Street, over by the Fountain of Youth, and there's a segment over there. Every time we have a storm, every street parallel to each other floods right down the middle of the street. So we have significant drainage issues that's not being resolved. Why are they not being resolved? My contention is that we are not spending our money correctly. We are putting it into, which I oppose, into a Picasso. $1.5 million in a Picasso could correct a lot of brown water issues.
Bravo. Yes,
$2.5 million into a marina to nowhere that we don't need, a marina that doesn't even know what capacity is, a marina that's being expanded for one reason only, that's so that when they have a fishing tournament, they can bring in more boats. $2.5 million for a marina that we don't need. Between those two projects alone, that's almost $4 million that we could put into the brown water problems, the flooding problems, the street problems, the sidewalk problems, the lighting problems, all the problems. The commissioners are ignoring the basic function of why they exist, and that is to protect the neighborhood. Enhance the neighborhood, build it up. They talk about, well, we don't have the money for this. Well, they went into reserves to get $1.5 million to do Picasso. You know what the reserves are for? The reserves are for emergencies, hurricane, okay, cleanup. So now we're going into reserves to fund a Picasso for 3 months. Let me put it in right perspective for you. Picasso at $8 a head to pay for the $1.5 million is going to have to bring in more than 1,700 people per day. How many is that? If you annualize that 1,700 people, that's over 6 million people a year. How many people do we already have coming in St. Augustine? 6 million people. So you have to double the tourists to pay for 3 months of Picasso. It's not going to happen. They say, well, the VIC, we want to bring in a higher-end tourist. Well, you know, the way you bring in a higher-end tourist is you fix your water problems, you enhance your neighborhoods, you build up the community, because when people come, they come to see the history. But when they leave, what they walk away with are the memories of walking through the street, seeing the people, seeing the neighborhoods, and seeing how beautiful this community is. We are neglecting our neighborhoods, whether it be Davis Shores, Lincolnville, Northtown, it doesn't matter. The neighborhoods are being neglected because the focus is on building up for more tourists to come in. And the majority of that buildup is in the downtown center area, and we are not protecting our neighborhoods the way we should. That's my primary issue. Let's focus back on the neighborhoods, on the communities, protect them and build them up. If we do that, property values will go up, people will start enjoying the quality of life better, such as the Willie Galimore Center here. The Garden Club was evicted 7 years ago with the promise that they were going to rebuild the Garden Club. It's been fenced off for 7 years and not a city commissioner has talked about it. The Garden Club. Maria Sanchez Lake, 7 years ago, was promised to be dredged because of all the effluents coming down the street during the rainy season and flowing in and filling it up. 7 years ago, still hasn't been dredged. Why? Because they say we don't have the money to haul off the dredge material. It always boils down to we don't have the money. Well, why do we have $4 million to put into something that doesn't affect your quality of life, Picasso or the marina, All it does is supposedly enhance the tourist activity, but minimally. I would rather see the money go back into building our neighborhoods and reinforcing and enhancing the neighborhoods, and let's enjoy the quality of life that we all fell in love with. So that's it. I'll answer any questions now if anybody has. And I'm sure I'm going to have the same one on there are 2 or 3 I'm sure is coming up. The issue of the CRA. Okay, I'm going to try to explain the CRA real quickly, and I know Errol knows just as much about it as I do. So if I make a mistake, Errol pop up. A CRA is a community redevelopment area, and excuse me if I'm being redundant for some people or too simplistic. To qualify for a CRA, the purpose of a CRA is to take the tax money that's generated from your house and your house over the base year and putting it back into this community in designated areas. So it doesn't go out to Davis Shores or North City, it stays right here in Lincolnville. To qualify for a CRA, you have to meet certain criteria in the regulations. Regretfully, those regulations call these criteria blight. I'm in Volano Beach right now. I have a house on the beach. My house is in the Volano Beach CRA. We are not blighted. We never have been blighted. However, there were deficiencies in the community that had to be corrected. And the way they corrected them was by designating Volano Beach CRA. The money that the taxpayers were putting into the CRA came back to the taxpayers to improve the neighborhood. Yeah, I'm satisfied with living with Volano Beach called a blighted area because I know that the reality is it's not blighted. It never has been blighted. However, there were problems. In that respect, I ask that you consider not the word blight, but consider the money that we can bring back into this community if you want to. If you want to do it. If the community doesn't want to do it, then let's kill it. Okay? But if you want money to come back into the area, a CRA is a valid way to do it, and it's not a negative attitude. And did I answer your question, sir?
No, you did not.
Okay. What I suggest?
I asked you, my question was, if that is in the CRA, that Lincolnville is a blighted area, will you vote for it or vote against it?
I can tell you, I believe in CRAs. If the neighborhood doesn't want it, I vote against it.
Thank you.
Okay? But I can tell you up front, I think CRAs are one of the best inventions that a government has ever created to protect the neighborhood. But it's your neighborhood, and I live on the edges of the CRA. It's your neighborhood. If you don't want it, we won't do it. Bottom line. Okay, I'm not going to enforce my position.
Are there any more questions? Before you leave, as you know, thank you very much. As you know, the only candidates we invited today were the 4 candidates for seat number 1 because it's the only commission seat where there is opposition. And so many people are saying, how does this one feel about it? How does that one feel about it? So I'm so pleased that you all came out. But we do have one more person, and since he's here, I would like to introduce him. Vern, come on up and say hello. He heard that we are having this, and he came out. And this is Vern Strom, and he's going to take 1 second to say hello, and then he's going to be passing information. He is running for mosquito control.
Second. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vernon Stroman Jr., born and raised St. Johns County right here. I'm running for Anastasia Mosquito Control, seat 5. Just want to point out something really important. I just took a tour of the place and saw the mosquito breeding area in the back there. That's one thing that we have to guard against. I have a 5-point platform, but my 3 main focuses are your health and welfare, because a lot of times people go into politics and forget about the phrase public servant. It's about you. It's about your health. Secondly, with education, if we know everything together, we learn it, we can also prevent a lot of things. There have been 3 confirmed cases of West Nile in Jacksonville, Florida, over the past several weeks. You don't know about those things, but also mosquito control is important because of our fiscal standpoint here. $669 million are made from our tourist district each year. Also, 6.5 million rooms are rented each night in a 365-day period. If one person is infected by encephalitis, West Nile, dengue fever, guess what? It's going to be on every blog, every site, and they're not coming back. So guys, let's work together. Remember me, Vernon Stroman Jr., combat veteran, service you can depend on.
Thank you. I'm going to give a commercial for the Lincolnville Neighborhood Association. For those of you who are from Lincolnville, and I know many of you are, the Lincolnville Neighborhood Association meets right behind us for exactly 1 hour. We start at 7, we end at 8. Second Tuesday of every month. If you want to find out, we had Nancy Sykes-Klein last time who discussed CRAs. If you had come out, you could have had a chance to ask questions. Ask those tough questions. We're not having a special speaker in August because many people are away. But coming back September, we're going to start with special speakers. Please contact me, since I'm the president. Please contact me if there's somebody or something you are really interested in, and please come out. Your neighbors, we have a great neighborhood, and it's important that we all stay together, and we all vote, and we vote when we come out together and we make decisions together. Thank you, candidates. I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you for everyone for staying through the rain. 11 to 3 every Sunday, the farmers market. And September, the middle of September, we'll go back to our big area when we then normally have about 40 vendors. In the summertime, we're here because it's much smaller. Thank you. Bye-bye.